If you follow these simple but effective triad tricks that I'm going to show you in today's video every time you take a solo, you are going to become a killer lead guitarist who can confidently improvise over chord changes. And as a result, your guitar skills are going to skyrocket. Everything that I'm going to show you are things that I'm using in my playing all the time. They've allowed me to become totally free and confident on the fretboard. However, this video is not about me. It's for you. For the last few years, I've been helping hundreds of intermediate guitarists go from sounding lost and noodly over chord progressions to confidently understanding how to follow those chord changes when they're soloing. So in this video, I'm going to break down these simple but effective triad tricks that are going to transform you into a lead guitarist who can melodically improvise through any chord progression. Now, everyone watching this video understands that if you want to be able to play leads that actually sound melodic and sound like they are highlighting a chord, maybe something like this, we all understand that that can't happen overnight. There's a process we have to go through and a series of stages that we have to learn in order to figure out how to do that reliably on the fretboard over any type of chord anywhere on the guitar neck. Now, here is a misconception that I see that kind of holds people back in this process and progression of understanding how to be a really killer lead player on the guitar. Now, most people, I want to say, kind of have this idea that there are two different pathways that you can go down as a guitarist who is learning the instrument and trying to soak up as much information as possible from YouTube. There is the rhythm pathway that you can go down, where there are specific like rhythm tricks that you can use to make yourself a better rhythm guitarist. And then there's a different pathway. There's the lead pathway, where you can learn all about lead guitar techniques and scale shapes, and that's going to make you a better lead player. This is a misconception that it's two pathways. They're actually one combined integrated pathway, right? You have to get good at rhythm first and understand how to be creative as a rhythm player to even unlock the ability to understand what's going on with your lead pathway, right? They're both the same path. Lead is further along in the journey. You've got to understand how to take shapes as a rhythm guitar player first and how to be creative with them and how to apply them on the fretboard. And then it's pretty simple to repurpose them in your lead playing and become really, really interesting as a lead player, right? You've got to understand, if you want to follow the chord changes and play through the chord changes, the clue is actually in the name. It's called chord changes, not scale changes or lead changes or anything like that. It's chord changes. If you want to figure out how to solve this problem and become confident on the fretboard so you can play over any backing track that you want, so you can jam with any musician that you want, you've got to understand what you're doing really, really well as a rhythm player, then how to take those shapes as a rhythm player and recycle them into your lead playing. Again, the pathway that you want to follow is understanding how to use something as a rhythm player first and then repurposing it into a lead player. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that with some tricks around chords, and then how you can take those chords, expand upon them, and then turn them into techniques that you can use in your improvisation inside of this video. So these are the first couple of things that you want to learn about chords that are going to help prepare you for that lead pathway. Now, everyone watching this video should understand your major and minor bar chords that are rooted on the low E string and the A string. So for example, we've got like G minor over here. We've played G minor over here as well from the A string. And again, the major, G major, G major. Really, really, really simple stuff. I'm going to show you how to add in some tricks that expand ever so slightly above this chord, and then how to repurpose those tricks into things you can use to start following the chord changes as well as a lead player. So first things first, let's look at this minor bar chord. We've got G minor over here. Whenever you have this minor bar chord shape, you have a triad that you can extend into above on the low E string. This is something that Jimi Hendrix does a lot in his playing. If you've learned songs like The Wind Cries Mary, you'll hear this kind of technique used quite a bit. Again, people like John Mayer, John Frusciante, Stevie Ray Vaughan, they're also using this idea a lot in their playing as well. Again, notice how these players that I just mentioned fantastic lead guitarists. The reason they're fantastic at lead is because they are also fantastic at rhythm. I'm telling you, their ability to be creative as a rhythm guitarist has informed their ability to be a killer lead guitarist. Again, I'm hammering this point home. The pathway is understanding rhythm first, and then that understanding of rhythm translates into your understanding of lead as well. So we have these minor bar chords. If you play this shape, you get that same minor chord. This is a triad shape for the same minor chord I just played. So this is G minor, and this also right here is G minor. So I'm playing with my middle finger the 6th fret of the low E string, and then I am barring my index finger on the A and the D, like this. These are both G minor. So to find that, play a minor bar chord, find your root note, then go up 1, 2, 3 frets, and then apply that shape. So G minor over here, and I've got this shape over here. This also works for the minor bar chord from the A string as well. So I've got G minor over here. And if I go 1, 2, 3 frets up, apply that same shape, but now from the A, D, and G string. Again, this is G minor. It's still G minor, right? We're just expanding a bit more above this bar chord now. We're kind of branching out into a slightly new territory, right? So whenever we have minor bar chords, we have this little shape that we can add. Now, this becomes really, really interesting when we start to do it for multiple chords. Let's say I've got like G minor, A minor, and then I don't know, C minor, D minor. Like when you start to stack this up for multiple chords, it sounds really, really interesting. Right? It sounds so much more interesting than just going. It's also a lot more entertaining to do as well. Again, people like Jimi Hendrix, they do this kind of idea of like playing a chord and then like going into a triad and doing like crazy like hammer-ons and embellishments. Don't worry too much about the hammer-ons and embellishments. This is the kind of foundational idea. Whenever you have a minor chord, you can extend into it using this triad shape. Again, we can do that from the low E string, and we can do that from the A string as well. So these kind of extensions exist around the bar chord shapes that you use as a rhythm guitarist. Now, we can do the exact same thing as a rhythm guitarist with our major chords as well. This one is more common. There are a lot of songs that use this shape. Again, Wind Cries Mary is a great example. So whenever we have this major bar chord, on the low E string, we have a major triad shape that extends above it like this. Right? I'm using my middle finger to play the 7th fret of the low E, and my index finger is just barring across the A and the D. So whenever you have a major bar chord, go up 1, 2, 3, 4 frets, and then apply that shape. Again, this also works for your bar chords from the A string as well. So this is also G major. And then if I go 1, 2, 3, 4 frets, I've got this shape over here. So now I can do the same thing for like my chord progressions that use major bar chords. Again, what Jimi Hendrix will do, he will usually, Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayer, and John Frusciante also doing the same thing as well. They will take this and then they'll put their ring finger over here in between the shape and slide into it like that. Like if I play Hey Joe, again, I'm kind of adding like some embellishments around that. Again, don't worry too much about the hammer-ons and pull-offs that I'm doing extra. Again, the foundation here is just being able to take a chord, slide, and add in that triad extension. And you can do that with all of these major bar chord shapes. right? Again, that makes Hey Joe sound really, really cool and interesting. So we've got these shapes that we can use for both major and minor now, right? So whenever we have a chord progression that uses these just regular bar chord shapes, we can start to spice it up a bit and make it sound a lot more interesting. Like, let's say we just got a basic chord progression that's like a 1, 6, 2, 5, right? Really simple kind of chord progression. Let's play that in the key of G major. 1, 6, 2, 5. I can add in these triad tricks. That is so much more entertaining to play rather than just going. Not only is it more entertaining to play, it's also a brilliant foundation that you can use to level up your lead playing as well. Again, there's going to be more towards the end of the video about how to do that. But again, for the moment, we've got these triads that kind of extend from the low E string over there for both our major and our minor chords. We're going to want to practice over the top of backing tracks being a rhythm guitarist with these kind of shapes. Again, I'm also going to show you a bit more about that later on in the video. There's one more extra triad extension I want to show from here that you can do with your major and minor chords. So these new triad extensions I'm about to show you now are more specific to your bar chords and where the root note is on either the E string or the A string. So whenever we have a minor bar chord with our root note on the low E string, we're going to look at just the D, G, and B strings at the moment. Inside of the D, G, and B strings of this bar chord, we have this G minor triad shape. Right? Again, it's the same thing. They're both the same chord. Right? Both of these are G minor. So this triad shape is hiding inside of my minor bar chord pretty much. Now, we also have an inversion above this kind of G minor triad I'm playing on the D, G, and B strings that looks like this. So something I like to do a lot in my playing when I'm being the rhythm guitarist and trying to kind of spice things up a bit, and also when I'm being a lead guitarist and targeting chord tones, is I'll go from like this minor chord over here and add in this inversion of that minor triad. Again, this is G minor, this is also G minor, right? So what you want to do is find this triad shape here inside of the bar chord, and then go up 1, 2, 3 frets on the D string and apply this shape here. So whenever you have G minor, or more specifically, whenever you have a minor bar chord with your root note on the low E string, if you go up 3 frets on the D string, you got this shape. So I can do that for like G minor, A minor, G minor, A minor. Again, that is so much more kind of interesting to listen to and more entertaining to play. And again, when you play these little triad extensions, because you're not using all of your fingers and all the strings, you can kind of add a bit of vibrato to them as well. Again, it sounds so much more musical. Again, just to recap that there, whenever you have a minor bar chord with your root note on the low E string, if you look at the D, G, and B strings, you got this triad. Then 1, 2, 3 frets above on the D, G, and B string, you got this inversion. Still the same chord, right? Now, we can do something similar with our bar chord, the minor bar chord, with our root note on the A string as well. This is G minor. If I look at just the D, G, and B string now, again, I've got another G minor triad that's hiding inside of my bar chord with the root note on the A string. Now, we also have another kind of a little triad extension we can do on that D, G, and B string. And that's going to be this shape, but just all the way up an octave. Again, this shape was like hiding inside of my minor bar chord over here. That's the shape that happens after this minor triad shape. So whenever I play our minor bar chord with our root note on the A string, I've got this shape above it, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets above on the D string. And then you play this shape. So you can kind of go into that little extension there, right? So now with our minor bar chords, we kind of have these two different triad extensions that we can go into. We can either go from like the low E strings around it, or we can look at like the middle set of strings that are there as well. So I've got G minor. I've got everything I just played there was G minor, right? They're different shapes, but they're all the same chord, right? Again, I've got minor bar chord. We already know this. We've got this low string triad extension, and then we also have this middle set of strings triad extension around it. Again, minor bar chord from the A string. I've got that low string triad extension, and I've got that middle set of strings triad extension as well. All right, it sounds so much more interesting when you kind of add all those things into the mix. Now, let's look at how to do the exact same thing with major chords as well. So obviously we've got these major bar chords. Again, our low E string is the root note over here. We already know that we've got this like low string triad extension. Inside of this major bar chord, we've got this root position G major triad on the D, G, and B strings in the middle set of strings. Now, the triad extension we're going to do above from here looks like this. This is also G major. So whenever we're using this kind of G major bar chord, we find this triad. If we go 1, 2, 3, 4 frets above, and then apply this shape from the D string, we're going to get another G major kind of triad extension. So now I've got these two different kind of extension G major shapes that I can use now. We can do the exact same thing for this bar chord as well with our root note on the A string. Again, we already know about this low string triad extension. This right here in the middle is a G major triad. Again, that's hiding inside of our bar chord shape that's rooted on the A string. Now, if we look for the triad extension in the middle set of strings above this point, we're going to find that same G major up an octave, right? So we've got G, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets up on the D string from this G shape here. And we get another G kind of triad extension. So I've got like, right? So whenever you have that bar chord from the A string, you've got this triad extension over here on the middle set of strings. Just to recap them, the middle set of string extensions for major and minor. Low E string bar chord, you got this shape. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3 frets above the D string. Then minor bar chord from the A string, you've got this shape in the middle. And then this above it on the middle string set, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets above. Major bar chord. We've got this kind of hiding inside there. And then we have this shape above it on the middle set of strings. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 frets above the D string from your bar chord over here. Then major bar chord over here, we've got this kind of triad shape hiding inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got this triad shape above it on the middle set of strings. So now when we play chord progressions, we've got these two different options of triad extensions we can add in. Again, let's say I'm playing Hey Joe. Like I've got C major. Got those things there. I can fly all around the fretboard on just one chord. I can do the same thing for like G major. This thing over here, these are all G. Right? D major. A major. I've got like this whole area of the fretboard where I can find chords. Hopefully this kind of shows you how the ability to understand playing through chord changes comes from understanding how to find chords all the way across the fretboard, and you do that by leveling up your rhythm playing first, right? Again, you can see here from this one example, that's just C, like a load of just C major, roots, thirds, and fifths of C major, right? All the way across the fretboard. You're going to be using these exact same shapes to start improvising through chord changes as a lead player, but you've got to figure out how to use this stuff as a rhythm player reliably first. So again, when we have chord progressions now, we can kind of stack these like extensions of triads. Again, let me do that like 1, 6, 2, 5 and add in all of these kind of extensions. So like G, then E minor, then A minor, and then D major. Again, I wasn't kind of really playing it in time. Let me try and do something that's more in time there. Right? This really starts to expand your knowledge of the fretboard, and like understanding where chords exist all over the guitar is like an essential skill that you need to have if you want to sound melodic, right? So with that in mind, how do we develop this essential skill? We want to practice over the top of backing tracks, but instead of like trying to solo with scale shapes that are only kind of leaving us sounding noodly, what we want to do instead is practice being a creative rhythm guitarist to the chord progression of that backing track, right? You're allowed to use backing tracks to practice being a rhythm guitarist. They're not only for solos, right? You can use them to level up your rhythm playing by using these triad tricks. So with that in mind, here is what we want to do with these like triad extensions over the top of a backing track to practice becoming a more creative rhythm guitarist, so that eventually we can become a killer lead guitarist with those same creative rhythm ideas. Here is how we're supposed to practice rhythm guitar to backing tracks. So this is how we practice being a rhythm guitarist to backing tracks. Right now I'm playing over a chord progression that goes from A minor to D major. So just start off by playing the chords as a foundation, right? So I've got D major over here. Again, really, really simple. This is not a challenge whatsoever for anyone watching this video, right? Just play the chords. I've got A minor over here as well. So those are the two chords that we got going on. How do we spice this up? Now, before I get into like using these triad shapes, a problem I see with a lot of people when it comes to playing rhythm guitar is that they assume that they kind of have to be on all the time and always strumming like this. You don't have to do that, right? The most important thing to do when you are being a rhythm guitarist is to just make sure that you play the backbeat of the groove. So that means landing on the 1 and the 3, or the 2 and the 4. So I'll give you an example. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the picture, right? Everything else in between is optional. That's the bare minimum foundation you need to do as a rhythm guitarist. All the extra rhythms in between that are just little bonuses. You just got to make sure you have that foundation first. So that's kind of what you want to be doing as a rhythm guitarist rather than just constantly strumming. So once you got that, then you can start to add in some of these triad extensions. So see how you can play the chord progression, play that bare minimum foundation of playing the backbeat. Again, that's either going to be playing the 1 and the 3 of the beats, or the 2 and the 4. It kind of depends on the song and what the drummer is doing. It's usually just either the 1 and the 3 or the 2 and the 4. So once you've got that foundation of playing the chords, try and add those triad extensions in between. Do that with your chord progression. Practice doing that a lot to backing tracks. Trust me, you will get so much better at visualizing and finding these triads all the way across the guitar, and that's going to give you a perfect foundation to start building from in order to find chord tones as a lead guitarist. So again, to quickly recap, put on backing tracks, learn the chord progression, play the foundational backbeat as a rhythm guitarist, and then add in triad extensions kind of around all of that stuff. Keep it simple. Whenever you're learning something new, don't overcomplicate it. So once you've spent enough time practicing over backing tracks, trying to be a creative rhythm guitarist who can add in these triad extensions when they're playing chords, you've actually done at least 50 to 60% of the hard work when it comes to understanding what you're supposed to be visualizing when you are targeting chord changes and playing over chord tones and trying to sound melodic with your phrases. Again, you've got to make sure you actually put in the work to practice those steps, right? This takes some discipline and dedication. You can't skip over that stage of skipping over rhythm guitar techniques and expect to somehow be great at understanding what you're supposed to do as a lead guitarist, right? Like I said, there aren't two pathways. There's only one: rhythm guitar, and then that informs your lead guitar playing, right? So with that in mind, once you've spent all that time practicing over backing tracks being a rhythm guitarist, you can start arpeggiating these triad kind of extensions from your chords to figure out what you're supposed to play over the top of them. So like when I have this G major bar chord, we know we've got like this low string extension and like this kind of middle string extension from there as well. We can start to turn those into arpeggios. Right? Those are all pretty much just G major chord tones. I'm adding in like a couple of extra notes just to kind of slide between those big stretches. Right? So I'm kind of adding in that note there to get to here, and again over here. So I'm kind of adding in some extra notes just to slide between these shapes. If you want your phrases to sound melodic, this is it. Notice how I'm not thinking about a scale shape at the moment, right? Scales are useful. They're not the most useful thing if you want to solo through chord changes and if you want to sound melodic with your phrases, right? The most useful thing for following the changes are chord tones. Your chord tones are arpeggios and triad shapes, right? So when I'm playing over G and I'm playing around this kind of G major bar chord, I'm thinking about this stuff. And again, notice when I'm like improvising with that, you don't have to kind of do this robotic arpeggio all the way up and down. Right? You don't have to do that. You can take like individual slices of that kind of pie and phrase with that. Like, let me try that again. Right? You don't have to use this whole big thing. You can just take individual parts. Again, be creative with all of those notes inside of those kind of arpeggio extensions. Like, just because you have all of those notes there, that doesn't mean you have to use all of them in your phrases. They're just options for you to choose from. Again, like when I have this G major over here, again, we know that we've got that kind of this low string triad extension. We've also got this that we can kind of slide into. Right? It's kind of all around that G major over here. So again, if I was trying to improvise over the top of G major and I'm playing around this kind of G major chord shape over here, kind of got all of that stuff over there inside of that arpeggio. Likewise, when I have like minor bar chords, we know we've got this kind of low string extension. And then from our root note on the low E, we've got like this kind of inversion above. Again, I can kind of chain them together. Right? Again, you don't have to do these kind of fancy like shreddy kind of like classical, neoclassical kind of exercise or anything like that. Again, these are just like some options to follow. So like right, you don't have to kind of follow them as some kind of technical shredding exercise. These are just notes that you have available and they're just options. And these are the chord tones. They're going to be the perfect notes to play over that chord. So yeah, whenever you have a minor bar chord, you've got this kind of like series of kind of notes around that bar chord and those kind of triad shapes that we're turning into arpeggios, right? Likewise, I've got this like G minor over here. Again, I've got this low string kind of triad that we've looked at. And again, this inversion that's above it. I'm just arpeggiating all of that stuff, right? So again, now we can kind of see how we can turn those triad extensions that we used as a rhythm guitarist into things we can creatively use to follow chords and sound melodic as a lead guitarist. So for example, let's say I had a chord progression that was just like G major and then A minor. I'd be doing things like again, like you don't even have to use all of the notes in all those strings. I could simplify it even more. I could go like G major, then A minor, I could do that over here as well, like G major, then A minor. Again, I'm using these like chord shapes to inform my melodies and the notes I'm playing, the notes I'm improvising. Notice how I haven't mentioned any scale shapes at the moment. Again, you can learn about how to add in scales around this kind of way of playing later on, but it's more important that you develop the ability to be able to play the guitar when you're only following like arpeggio shapes and triad shapes. You need the ability to make music with just those shapes and to forget about scales for the moment, right? A lot of guitarists, when you tell them to try and like play and improvise a melody without using a scale shape, like everything falls apart and suddenly like they can't play the guitar anymore for some reason, right? We've got to develop this skill if we want to play through chord changes and become an excellent lead guitarist, of being able to play lead without always kind of visualizing scale shapes. Again, the reason I'm kind of mentioning all of this is because this is what has been successful in my playing. It's allowed me to understand what I'm doing anywhere on the fretboard when playing through chord changes. I see playing through chord changes and being a lead guitarist as like an extension from being a rhythm guitarist. Again, the pathway is like understand how to do rhythm first, and then lead is just like a different ways of thinking about rhythm. It's just playing more individual notes rather than a load of notes all the way together. And again, the reason I'm showing you this as well is because it's worked for all the students that I'm teaching it to as well. Like on the screen at the moment, you can see some words from some of the students that I've been working with right now. They're all getting fantastic results from thinking this way in their guitar playing, understanding the correct foundation they're supposed to set first in order to make visualizing chord changes actually easy. Like we have this kind of idea that soloing through chord changes is supposed to be really, really, really hard because we don't know how to do it and we've been struggling with trying to solve the problem for ages. It's actually not extremely difficult. It's just you got to set the correct foundations and know what you're supposed to practice in the correct steps, in the correct order, to set yourself up for a position where soloing through the guitar, the chord changes as a guitarist playing lead isn't actually too difficult, right? So if you want to go through those steps in the correct order and understand how to become confident on the fretboard and reliably play through any kind of chord changes all over the guitar neck, whether you're just playing along to a backing track or you're jamming with friends and playing in front of other people, you can check out the link below in the description to see if you qualify for my Triad Mastery program. Again, there's a link in the description to see if you qualify for that if you're interested in understanding the steps you're supposed to take to do this on the fretboard. But with that in mind, here is how I'm kind of practicing these arpeggio ideas over the top of a backing track to start actually following some chord changes. Here's how you take those triad extensions and use them as a lead guitarist. So this chord progression you're hearing uses 4 chords. We've got G major. Then we've got B minor. Then the next chord after this is going to be D major. And then after this, we've got C major. So all we have to do is start using those kind of triads from that chord. So G major. Again, that was part of our like bar chord. B minor. Again, that was part of that kind of like chord shape. It's the triad inside. D major. Then C major. I'm just arpeggiating those notes. I'm using this kind of lower extension over here. Again, B minor. D major. C major. I can go to the extension. The best part about this is that when you use the triad shapes to solo, you can play just one note over every single chord and it's going to sound great. As long as it's a note from the triad shape, it's going to sound amazing, right? C major. You can even start to play solos with just one finger, right? So G major. I'm just going to use my index finger the whole time. B minor. Then slide into a C major. Sorry, this was D major, not C major, my bad. Then C major's next. So the triad and kind of arpeggio extensions, they hold all of the perfect notes that you need. Again, I'm just using my index finger for this. Like, you don't have to be a technical player. You just have to know what you're visualizing, and you visualize the correct things by practicing finding them on the fretboard as a rhythm player first. Then C major. Again, I've got that kind of like extension. Again, you don't need to be a super technical, like fast guitarist. You just have to know how to visualize these triad extensions around your chords and start using them as places to visualize and target instead of always relying upon a scale shape. Again, These triad extensions and arpeggiating these triad extensions, they contain the most perfect notes that you could ever be looking for. And those are the chord tones of the current chord that you're playing. So start trying to target them instead of using just scale shapes. They're going to make your playing sound so much more melodic and so much more musical. And you'll probably find that it's actually kind of easier to sound nice on the guitar. And it's going to be easier to stop noodling on the guitar when you start thinking about these triad shapes instead of your scale shapes all the time. If you enjoyed this video and you're serious about becoming a confident lead guitarist, you can understand how to play through those chord changes, and you need some personalized guidance in order to get you there, my program is going to help you out with that problem. If you're looking for the perfect practice roadmap that turns your goals into an achievable reality, check out the link below in the description. Alternatively, if you still want to stay on YouTube, I've got a load of more useful videos for you. You can check out this video over here that also goes into depth on how to actually apply and use triads in your playing. So you're going to want to check out this video if you want to grow as a guitarist.